Dawson's Rambles.
Hey YouTube, Dawson Ryder here. Welcome to my video where I'm just going to be kind of having a casual discussion about Zenkaiser Black, the character from the recently completed Avataro Sentai DonBrothers series, as the identity of this character was and remains a mystery. And we are supposedly going to be getting some form of an answer in the upcoming DonBrothers and Zenkaiger crossover. But I wanted to discuss this whole situation because I think it's interesting, discuss some of the theories, my thoughts, because it's an interesting and kind of unique situation. You know, it's unique to have the main protagonist from a previous Sentai be a regular cast member, you know, and we had this whole intro between the series where it seemed like Zenkaiger being tied into it was going to have more of an important role, like almost more of a pseudo-sequel role, and that really didn't end up being the case. Like, over the course of the series, the further we got away from it, outside of still keeping the gears and reminding you that they could do the legendary changes every now and then, DonBrothers' own identity and mythology mostly overwhelmed it, and you almost kind of forgot about that hybrid element, but it was definitely more present at the beginning, obviously, because you had, you know, the hybrid mecha, Zenkaiser was there. They put a lot more emphasis, I would say, in the first quarter of the show on, showing the Sentai gears that would show up when a monster was defeated, and also several times specifically showing, the old-style ones from Zenkaiger transforming into these new ones, which makes you think that, oh yeah, this is going to be an ongoing mystery of, how this is connected. Especially with how we left Zenkaiger with sort of this perfect plot device that could theoretically get that version of Kaito here, where they're traveling throughout the worlds. So, when this initially happened, I assumed something had happened to Kaito, that he ended up in this role when he was traveling. But we don't even know now if this is that version of Kaito. But it's really interesting because, like I said, it was seemingly more prominent in terms of setting up a mystery storyline and sort of reinforcing those connections at the beginning to a degree. And it, for the most part, faded out. Zenkaiger always had a presence, not the biggest presence, but he always had a presence, and they definitely teased and, brought up some possible ideas throughout the series. But the way it was handled more heavily in the first parts of the episodes really wasn't there so much anymore, which makes me think, I think they probably did have an answer. From what I understand, the production teams, that worked on, or the writers that worked on both series didn't necessarily communicate, so I don't know. Toku's really bad at storytelling with stuff like this, where, especially when you have crossover elements, they really don't come up with good answers. The answers looks like they scribbled on a paper, put it through a shredder, and then taped it back together, and that's, the lore that we're dealing with when it comes to Toku crossovers, so I'm, worried that the, answer's not going to be really interesting, the question's going to be more interesting than the answer, which often happens. But I'm legit curious because I think there's potential to have some really cool mythology connections for both series. It makes me think that they maybe at one point, we're going to have this storyline in regards to Zenkaiger hybrid sequel elements be more prominent, and then decided to back off for one reason or another, whether it was that DonBrothers was doing okay on its own, wanting to prioritize their own stories, or them having the idea decently early on of, hey, let's save it for the movie. I actually don't mind them saving it for the movie, just because, since it is this shared element between two series, which is rather unique, I think that that's actually not a terrible idea. It kind of sucks in a way because it's one of the biggest questions I had through the series, but I don't think I mind it overall because of that unique situation, so long as they at least attempt to address it. I'm honestly even okay if they leave it off vague, but at least make some sort of more concrete connection, and don't make it like a Decade situation, where you just Toku mess. So what are kind of the options of who this guy could be? I think it was Agatha all along. Anyways, guys, until next time, don't forget to like, comments. And obviously, there's a chance he's somehow our version of Kaito, which is what I initially thought, that something happened to him in the multiverse. You know, obviously, we're going to see the real version of Kaito in the movie, or, the Prime version or whatever. But we don't know, this could somehow be a future version of him, or a version of him that, got involved in this. It's not impossible. There's also just a Kaito variant, the idea of kind of like the Loki thing, where there's just different variants of characters we've met, which I also don't hate that idea, just because I kind of like that would maybe open the idea of meeting variants of other Sentai characters in the future. If they're going to keep churning out these crossovers, at least make something interesting with them, and I think that could be kind of a cool idea for the future, and there could be a way to tie that to the mythology, especially since, Zenkaiger did multiverse stuff, Some Sentai will sometimes do multiverse, and then sometimes pretend they were in the same world all along. Just depends on which day of the week it is. You gotta check your calendar. But since Zenkaiger did multiverse stuff, it's possible he's just a variant that is somehow, in this version of reality, more intrinsically tied to this DonBrothers mythology. Now, speaking of, one of the major hints throughout the series is that everybody that's like a major player in the Dawn Brothers mythology, like the Cerebrans and stuff, know who he is and refer to him as the great hero, which obviously tells you that whatever he is or whoever he is, he's involved in their mythology. And then there's also that weird moment in the finale when he says, when Don Momotaro is losing his memories, when he says, as a reward or whatever, when your mission is done, you're going to lose your memories, but you're going to get to live a normal life. And they show this weird scene of his suit changing from red to black and white, similar Zenkaiser Black colors, which implies some sort of connection, which could mean maybe previously this version of Zenkaiser was some sort of hero or precursor to Don Momotaro, and something similar happened to him, where he was then placed into this normal life as a cafe owner. Obviously, he would have had to regain his memories or knowledge to some degree, because he's clearly involved in what's going on, but it definitely implies a connection there. Could it mean a more meta storyline, like a more meta Sentai storyline, where this is somehow a version of Kaito, and you have this idea that Sentai leaders, or at least some Sentai leaders, kind of get this thing when their mission is done, they get reassimilated into a world, and then get this new costume? That could be kind of a cool idea, to be honest. I mean, I'm not sure how it would work. Especially, again, he's very involved seemingly in the Don Brothers mythology. But, I mean, just setting aside the complications of that for a second, that idea is actually kind of cool to me. That could be kind of a cool, if they did some sort of meta storyline that more so connects the Don Brothers and Zenkaiger and Sentai mythologies, fanficking right now, but leading towards the next anniversary, which I hate thinking about. I hate that we immediately start thinking about the next stupid anniversary as soon as the previous one is done. Like, can we not just enjoy the normal time without the nonsense? Anyway, sorry, mini rant. I'm just sick of it. But regardless, this could be a cool anniversary device for the next storyline, like a movie, interconnecting the idea of like Sentai Reds or leaders, having this sort of ascension when their mission is done. And you could like introduce a handful of returning leads, including Don Momotaro and Zenkaiger, that got these special white and black editions of their suits as they become these sort of legacy great heroes or something. That's just spitballing. I think that there was purposefully some sort of implied connection there with Don Momotaro and Zenkaiser Black, but it becomes confusing when you're like, okay, is this going to anyway tie to Zenkaiser and Zenkaiger and Sentai, or is this all about the Don Momotaro mythology? Of course, you have to also mention that there was the whole idea of him being a Bestial, which I thought was almost confirmed back when they showed what seemed to be Kaito in the Bestial world, which apparently some people were like, that's not him because the jacket's slightly different or whatever, but I feel like that was at the very least a very purposeful red herring, and that originally implied to me like, oh, Kaito got traveled through the world and he got taken by a Bestial and became this, possible penguin Bestial. At the time, everyone thought it was the penguin or something like that, and then maybe he was going to be like a secret betrayal or something. I mean, it's not impossible they could have him be revealed to be a Bestial or something like that at this point. I'm not going to rule anything out, especially something that would be able to be more of an easy explanation to a degree. But I feel like at this point, after we kind of blew past that and all of the great hero stuff, not to mention leaving a potential answer up for a movie, I'm going to say that's probably doubtful at this moment. Again, it's not impossible, but I mean, it's not impossible for Sentai to disappoint you like that, but it just would seem weird for them to wait and be like, we're going to reveal it in the team-up movie when actual Kaito's there, and then, oh no, he's Bestial. Like, I just don't see that happening, but I think it's a really interesting situation. I honestly have enjoyed the character and the mystery. I'm not going to, like, rage if I don't like the answer, but I may more so want them to take advantage of the potential, because I think this has potential to be, like, a really cool storyline that brings together two series in sort of the larger Sentai world and pay off kind of a cool little mystery going across this last year. Again, I'm not going to be like, oh, they betrayed the fans, like if they didn't do it right. But I just, and it's not like I'm demanding an answer, but I think that they have something kind of cool on their hands here. And I think if they, pull it off right, it could be remembered as something pretty cool. And I think it's a pretty interesting situation how it's evolved over the course of the show in terms of like how the mystery was built up and how they kind of pulled back on some elements, and how I think our perception of this whole mystery was going into the series in regards to thinking probably, at least some of you like me, were thinking Zenkaiger's stuff was going to be more present, and then it just kind of wasn't. But what do you think? Going into the movie, what do you think is the most likely option? What are your theories on who he's going to be? Do you think they'll even answer it, or do you think it's going to be like a Narutaki situation all over again? Wait a minute. This is all Decade's fault. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you can get notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.